Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a gripping real-world confrontation that sent ripples through international waters, an incident that involved a $248 million U.S. Navy tanker and the Venezuelan Navy, turning what seemed like a routine patrol into a high-stakes standoff that nearly sparked a larger military crisis. The story unfolds in the turquoise waters off the Caribbean coast, where geopolitical tensions, economic desperation, and military brinkmanship collided in dramatic fashion. What began as a shadowy pursuit quickly evolved into one of the most closely watched maritime encounters in recent years, forcing both nations to flex their naval might in a way the world hadn't seen since the Cold War days. It all started just after dawn, when the U.S. Navy's massive fleet oiler, part of the Military Sealift Command, was moving through international waters on a supply route that supports ongoing operations in the Atlantic. The tanker, a critical refueling vessel worth nearly $250 million, was transporting vital aviation fuel and provisions to support U.S. carrier strike groups patrolling nearby. Everything seemed routine until the ship's radar operators picked up fast, moving contacts approaching from the south, unidentified vessels operating at aggressive speeds. Within minutes, visual confirmation revealed that these were Venezuelan Navy patrol boats, advancing in a tactical wedge formation with their guns uncovered and radar locks flickering on the American ship's hull. Over the radio, Venezuelan authorities accused the tanker of trespassing in sovereign waters, but according to GPS logs and maritime data, the U.S. vessel was clearly operating in recognized international lanes. Inside the bridge of the U.S. tanker, the mood changed instantly. The captain, a seasoned officer with decades of experience, ordered the crew to remain calm but prepare for defensive maneuvers. The ship's communications officer relayed warnings back to the approaching vessels, emphasizing that they were in international waters and had every right to navigate freely. But the Venezuelan boats continued to close in, cutting the distance to under 2 nautical miles. Tension mounted as radio exchanges turned into heated warnings. The Venezuelan side insisted on boarding the tanker for inspection, while the U.S. crew refused, citing maritime law and military protocol. At that point, the Venezuelan boats deployed flares, a clear sign of intimidation, and circled the massive ship like wolves around a wounded prey. The tanker's defensive systems, though limited since it was primarily a support vessel, were placed on full alert as the U.S. Navy monitored the situation through satellite and reconnaissance aircraft overhead. Performance-wise, the U.S. tanker was not designed for combat, but for endurance and logistical excellence. At 700 feet long, equipped with dual diesel propulsion systems and advanced radar arrays, it could operate for thousands of miles without refueling. Its onboard systems were state-of-the-art, including encrypted communication links to U.S. Naval command centers, giving it real-time situational awareness. What the vessel lacked in armament, it made up for in resilience and technology. The crew was trained to operate under threat conditions, and within minutes, they activated electronic countermeasures designed to jam targeting systems from hostile ships. The tanker began slow, evasive maneuvers, not aggressive, but strategic enough to maintain position while avoiding entrapment. This wasn't a warship, but it was still part of one of the most formidable naval networks in the world. And as the Venezuelan patrols continued their harassment, the U.S. command was already dispatching a nearby destroyer to the scene. As the incident intensified, American P-8 Poseidon reconnaissance aircraft circled overhead, relaying live imagery to the Pentagon. From the sky, it was evident that the Venezuelan Navy was escalating beyond standard procedure. Their flagship corvette, the Carina, had joined the patrol boats and was maneuvering dangerously close to the U.S. tanker's path. The situation was on a razor's edge. Any miscalculation, a collision, a warning shot, even a misinterpreted radar lock could have triggered a chain reaction with unpredictable consequences. The U.S. Navy destroyer USS Lassen, already operating in the region, was rerouted to intercept. It was a show of power that underscored America's stance. Any attack on its naval assets, no matter the type of ship, would be treated as an act of aggression. As the destroyer closed in, Venezuelan command realized the gravity of the moment. But instead of backing off, they attempted to block the tanker's path with smaller interceptor boats, trying to force it toward their claimed territorial line. Inside the Venezuelan command center, tensions were equally high. For years, the nation's leadership had accused the United States of conducting covert maritime surveillance under the guise of logistical missions. They saw the U.S. tanker not as a supply ship, but as a symbol of unwanted presence in their sphere of influence. This aggressive move was meant to assert dominance and test Washington's limits. However, this gamble quickly turned against them. When the USS Lassen appeared on the horizon, cutting through the waves with its advanced Aegis radar glowing on sensors, the entire calculus changed. The destroyer locked its targeting radar on the Venezuelan flagship, not as an attack, but as a firm warning. Within seconds, the Venezuelan patrols started to retreat, realizing that they were moments away from a potentially catastrophic naval exchange. The U.S. tanker maintained its course, unscathed but clearly shaken. Communication from U.S. command reaffirmed the right to free navigation, while the Venezuelan side accused Washington of provocation in a statement that later aired on state television. The safety measures taken during the ordeal showcased just how prepared the U.S. Navy is for unexpected maritime threats. Despite being a non-combat vessel, the tanker's defensive training paid off. The crew's composure under pressure, their ability to deploy countermeasures, and their coordination with aerial and surface assets demonstrated the depth of U.S. operational discipline. It also highlighted the importance of multi-layered naval security. Every ship, regardless of its mission, is part of a protective network capable of responding to aggression in seconds. Analysts later noted that if the Venezuelan Navy had attempted aborting, the U.S. response would have been immediate and overwhelming, potentially leading to a full-scale clash in the Caribbean. Thankfully, the rules of engagement and strict communication protocols prevented that from happening. The tanker resumed its route, escorted for several hours by the destroyer until the region was declared clear. In terms of strategic importance, this event reminded the world why the U.S. Navy's logistical backbone is as vital as its warships. Without tankers, carriers can't stay on station, jets can't fly sustained missions, and global patrols lose their reach. The incident served as a wake-up call that even non-combat vessels are now targets in an increasingly complex geopolitical environment. Venezuela's move was interpreted by many analysts as a desperate attempt to project strength amid economic collapse and diplomatic isolation. By targeting a symbolic U.S. asset, they sought to rally domestic support and demonstrate defiance against what they called imperialist interference. But the gamble backfired. Instead of appearing strong, the Venezuelan Navy's actions exposed their vulnerabilities: outdated ships, inconsistent communication, and a lack of strategic depth compared to U.S. naval power. Reports following the event indicated that U.S. intelligence had already anticipated increased Venezuelan naval activity in the area. Surveillance drones had detected unusual patterns, rapid deployments, radar anomalies, and movement near the shipping lanes. The U.S. had quietly adjusted its patrol routes to minimize direct confrontations, but the tanker's mission was essential and unavoidable. It was carrying nearly 20 million gallons of fuel critical to flight operations across the region. The fact that Venezuela chose to target such a vessel underscored both the audacity and the recklessness of their approach. International reactions poured in swiftly. NATO allies condemned the harassment, while maritime law experts cited the incident as another violation of freedom of navigation principles. The United Nations called for restraint, though both sides accused the other of aggression. When looking at performance and technological superiority, the U.S. Navy's integrated response network became the story's unsung hero. The tanker's survival wasn't luck, it was a result of layered intelligence, disciplined crew training, and instant coordination with nearby assets. Within 12 minutes of the first radar contact, the U.S. Fleet Command had complete situational awareness, satellite confirmation, and intercept orders in place. The Venezuelan forces, on the other hand, operated on outdated radar systems, many decades old, with limited satellite guidance. The imbalance was striking: one side operating with precision and global reach, the other relying on shore-range aggression and political bluster. This disparity not only diffused the situation, but served as a silent deterrent to future provocations. The incident became a case study for naval academies in how to handle high-pressure confrontations without escalating into war. For the crew aboard the U.S. tanker, the aftermath was filled with mixed emotions: relief, pride, and unease. They had stared down a hostile navy without firing a shot, relying purely on training, composure, and technology. The U.S. Navy recognized their bravery, awarding commendations for discipline under duress. Meanwhile, Washington issued a stern diplomatic warning to Caracas, making it clear that any future act of aggression against U.S. assets would result in immediate military response. Venezuela's leadership tried to spin the story domestically, calling it a sovereign defense operation. But satellite images and leaked communications told a different truth. Their forces had overstepped, been outmaneuvered, and ultimately retreated without achieving anything tangible. It became a moment of embarrassment for Venezuela's Navy, but a reaffirmation of U.S. dominance in the region. As for safety improvements, the U.S. Navy began reinforcing its protocols for tanker escorts in sensitive areas. Additional surveillance drones were deployed, and refueling missions near contested waters were adjusted to include rapid response destroyer coverage. The incident accelerated plans to integrate defensive weaponry, such as automated Zeus turrets, even on support vessels, ensuring that every ship in the fleet could protect itself if isolated. Analysts also pointed out that this encounter highlighted the blurred line between military and economic warfare. By threatening logistics rather than combat ships, Venezuela had tested a new kind of pressure point, one the U.S. was quick to seal off with decisive strategy. In the aftermath, the global perception of naval power subtly shifted. The incident reinforced how modern warfare isn't just about missiles or fleets, but about information, endurance, and control over the world's sea lanes. For the United States, it was a reminder that every vessel, whether a destroyer or a tanker, carries the flag's weight and must be defended as such. For Venezuela, it was a lesson in the dangers of posturing against a superpower whose response mechanisms are both silent and overwhelming. As tensions simmered down, the U.S. continued its operations unimpeded, while Venezuela faced internal criticism for risking escalation that could have led to devastating consequences. The message was clear. Intimidation tactics on the high seas no longer work when facing a navy that operates with precision and global reach. The price tag of the $248 million tanker suddenly meant more than just its economic value. It symbolized the investment in freedom of navigation, in maintaining open trade routes, and in supporting allied forces worldwide. That single ship, through its ordeal, represented the unbreakable chain that sustains America's global presence. The Venezuelan Navy's attempt to challenge it backfired, exposing not only the futility of their aggression, but also the strength of the U.S. system, from technology to training, from intelligence to diplomacy. In the days that followed, maritime traffic through the region resumed normally, but the memory of that morning remained a stark warning to any nation considering similar provocations. In conclusion, the encounter between the U.S. Navy's $248 million tanker and Venezuela's naval forces stands as a defining reminder of how easily peace can hang by a thread in today's volatile geopolitical environment. It showcased the professionalism of the U.S. Navy, the resilience of its personnel, and the effectiveness of its strategic infrastructure. What could have been a flashpoint for international conflict was diffused with precision, patience, and power. And as the tanker sailed away under the Caribbean sun, the world was once again reminded that while ships may differ in size or purpose, the flag they carry commands a respect that cannot be challenged without consequence. ChatGPT can make mistakes. Check important info.